Welcome
to the joy of coding.
Hello, and welcome to episode 373 of The Joy of Coding. My name is Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. We're going to be live hacking on some Firefox stuff today. I've got a really interesting bug. It's one of those bugs where it's like interesting bookkeeping, and I'm very eager to dive into it with you and explain what I think is going on, verifying that assumption, and then finding a solution. But we'll get into that shortly. Let's start by sharing my screen. Yeah, it's July 17th, 2024, episode 373. Reminder, no plan survives breakfast. I think I'm going to fix that bug. I think I know what's going on, or I have a sense of it, but maybe I'm way, way wrong, and we end up going completely off the rails. That could happen, and that's okay. This is me doing software development without a net, as I would normally do at my desk, and I'm just inviting you to come along for the ride. So that means we might get stuck, sidelined, distracted. Who knows? An emergency might crop up that I have to jump into. We'll deal with it as it comes. That's the first thing. The second thing is the agenda that we're looking at, which has all these handy dandy links, and that I'm going to be updating. There are links to it. Depending on where you're watching this video, you'll find a link to the agenda inside on YouTube, for example, the video description. On Air Mozilla, it's in the details section on the left. And if you're watching this on Twitch, it's down in the channel details. And as I update excuse me for a sec, as I update the agenda, you'll see this little spin in the corner. Let me actually add a couple of things to the agenda because we might have some time to do some reviews. There's one. And where's another one? Let's do this one. We might do some reviews. Oh, maybe this one too, if we have time. Okay. That's presuming we figure out this nasty bug. Now, let me talk about this bug a little bit because I think it may interest you. So, the actual presentation of this bug was a bit of a surprise. It's not, what's the perma beta? Where is this? Yeah. I got tagged on this a week or so ago? 8 days ago. Yeah, about 8 days ago. This is after we'd landed some patches in Mozilla Central to change some of the formatting of the backup file that we create when a backup gets created. If you're not familiar with what I mean by a backup file or what the backup thing is, the project, the TLDR is I'm working on a project with some people to make it possible to, at runtime, take a snapshot of your user profile, pack it all up into a single file that can be moved between machines, or you can throw it into a thumb drive or whatever, just as like a backup of your user profile data. And that single file is a specially crafted HTML document that's got like a big old multi-part MIME message at the end of it inside of a document comment. We're hacking a little bit into the format of an HTML document. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a very large comment at the end of an HTML document, and we just happen to be taking advantage of that to stick a giant MIME message in there. And that allows us to have structured data inside of this the UTF-8 encoded document. Let me just check to see if anyone's talking about it in the chat. When you think you know the bug, but it was not that. Yeah, sorry. If you thought I knew what the bug if this is not the bug you were thinking of, I'm curious, Smurfd, if you've got another sense of what the bug is. So the way this bug presented is, we landed that patch, and it landed in Central, and everything was fine, and it passed in automation, and emerged. And then we do this thing every couple of days. Our sheriffs will simulate the beta uplift fortnightly. So what that means is the contents of Mozilla Central are tweaked in the same way that they'd be tweaked if we were uplifting Central to beta. Like if we were doing the sort of every four weeks, everything in Mozilla Central goes to beta. It simulates that to see if anything breaks or anything is going to break whenever we merge to beta. And that's so that we don't get any big surprises. Like, the worst thing is if you've been working on Central for 4 weeks, you merge to beta, and beta is horribly broken because I don't know. There could be a number of things that could happen. Like there might be some flags that are only set in nightly because we have nightly if defs, or there are certain configuration patterns that only exist in nightly and different ones in beta. And so a bunch of tests might suddenly start failing inside of beta. And so our sheriffs do these simulations to alert us very quickly, like, hey, your thing is going to fail whenever we do the uplift to beta in a couple weeks, so that we can not be surprised, so that whenever the uplift does occur, it's fairly straightforward. Like, it's been simulated, it uplifts, beta is got all its tests passing as much as they pass, and then we all move on with our lives. Smurf D is saying, no, I meant just in general. When you think you know the solution, but it is not that, but something else completely that is wrong. Well, that is kind of the story with this bug, in a ways. Like, so this thing was failing on beta only during beta simulations and only on certain platforms, and it was very, very difficult for me to figure out what was happening, and it required a bunch of tweaking and logging and sending stuff to try and running a bunch of jobs. But eventually, I was able to produce a test case. What's going on is this test backup service archive, is failing at a particular moment. Let me shut down this nightly, and I'll show you. 8 Central. Wait, what do I have here? I have a bunch of logging, just sloppy logging inside of this commit. Yeah, I'm gonna just get rid of all of those changes. None of those are helpful. And we are going to check out Central, and I'm going to do an artifact build, and I'm going to show you this file. So this is a specially crafted simulation. It's like something, our backup files are going to look a little bit like, let me see if I can show you one actually. It'll look something like this, where there's like a doc type at the top, there's a version number inside of the document in a comment right after the HTML doc type tag. And then there's a bunch of HTML, standard stuff, nothing unusual, except the fact that everything is inline. We don't have any external sources, no CSS, no script or anything that's running externally. It all has to be inline. And then afterwards, we have this block that says begin inline mime, and then we start with a preamble that says, like, okay, this is a multi-part mixed mime message. This is the boundary. This is the format of a multi-part mixed multi-part mime message, and then you've got the boundary, and then you've got like your data. And that data is, in this case, this data is in UTF-8. It's just a JSON block, and then this is binary data. This is the actual compressed contents of the backed up profile that are base 64 encoded, and I think in this case encrypted. And so that's what it looks like. And eventually you reach the bottom, there's another boundary, and then you end the inline mime message, and that's the file. So it's a little strange, but it gets the job done. We ran it by a couple of people, and there are pros and cons to it, but the main benefit of doing it this way is that the HTML file can be interpreted by any browser and present itself as either instructions on how to recover from it, and with like a download link to Firefox, or instructions on how to recover from it because it knows it's running inside of Firefox. Because like we do include a little bit of script, I believe in the default case. There's like a little bit of script, and that script doesn't do much. It just like, what does it do? Archive.js. It'll just check to see whether or not Firefox is the user agent, and if it is, then it flips this attribute on the document body, and that attribute just changes the document structure so that we show this list of instructions rather than this list of instructions. So there's some people talking about the Twitch stream. Hopefully is the stream stable? Are we okay here? Am I sending packets? I'm sending packets. I'm not dropping frames. So Akris, Twitch stream isn't doing it for you, there are alternatives. You could check out the YouTube one or the. I guess you can't hear me if you're not able to get the stream. But just in case, Ocris, I will give you the links to alternative streams. Ocris. Here are some alternative stream options. Oh, you can hear me. I'm just wondering if it's Twitch or a nightly issue. Oh, good question. Okay, so yeah, the issue is that this test runs. It loads up sort of a generated one of those HTML files, and one of the first things it tries to do is it tries to read out the JSON block. This thing right here. It tries to read it out because it needs to know some information. It wants to know. First of all, is this an encrypted archive? Because that information is encoded in there. And there is information on, like, what was the name of the machine that created the backup? And what was the date of the backup? And that information is presented to the user. It's also, if the backup is encrypted, that information over here is also signed. Like there's it's signed by a key that is derived from the passphrase that the user used to encrypt the backup. So that way we can try to prevent tampering. Okay, so what's the problem? Well, the problem is that we have this we have this worker script, and its job is to try and, like, none of the information beyond the version number here between the HTML tags is of any interest to the actual backend. All of the stuff that's displayed inside of here is really just for the user to see if they load it up inside of a web browser. All that the backup service is interested in is this stuff down here. And so we need to get to this stuff. We need to stream it in and read it, but we don't want to read the whole file into memory. So part of the thing that you have to realize is that some of these backups are going to be pretty big. Like my personal profile, the one I use on this machine, my developer profile, is quite old, and the HTML file that gets generated is just over 100 megs. I think it's like 115 megs. It's a large HTML file. And we don't want to have to read the whole thing into memory at one time, and we definitely don't want to do like string operations that might create copies, or we're searching through a gigantic file, 100 megabytes of text to like look for strings or stuff like that. We don't want to do that because we don't want to risk, putting strain on the machine's resources. We want to kind of do it in parts. And so the way it works is we have a worker, and the worker gets a pointer, a handle to the file on the file system. And then the first thing it does is it reads reads in some fixed number of bytes. I think it reads in like 256 bytes or something. And then it scans those bytes for this string. It makes sure that we start with the right version, an expected version. And then it throws out that buffer. Or rather, after doing that, it continues to do like blocks of 256 bytes. And it actually creates, it's like double buffering, where it reads in 256 bytes, and then it concatenates it to the previous read of 256 bytes. And then it scans that for a particular phrase. And the reason we have to do this in two blocks is because we have to deal with the possibility. Like the phrase it's looking for is this: begin inline mime. That's what it's searching for. Begin inline mime, and then in particular this stuff down here. So it's actually this whole phrase is what it's looking for. And it does it in parts because the file itself, the preamble is not necessarily fixed. There's like user defined stuff in here. Like the name of the machine is not a thing that is static. That is a thing that we get from the operating system. The date may change slightly, the number of bytes in the date. The rest of this is somewhat static, but it'll be different depending on what locale the user is using, because we've got like interpolated strings whenever we do this, when we generate this file. So it's not consistent. HTML encoded MIME content. Yeah, kinda. Yeah, basically. And there was an attempt somewhere to make this, like, I think Chrome has something called MHTML, which is basically this. MIME encapsulation of aggregated HTML documents. Who supports this? I think it's Safari and Blink. IE was the first browser to do it. Edge does it. Opera does it. Chrome. I think it's for Firefox that does not do it. And no, Safari also does not do it. Safari and Firefox do not do it, and that's because this is not. I don't believe it's a standard, like, or at least it wasn't a ratified standard. It's like someone has put forward a standard, but it's not like a standard that I think has been ratified or anything or made part of the web. Mozilla had something called the Mozilla Archive format. Like, there were a bunch of different people trying to find a way of encapsulating a whole bunch of information into a single file that can be represented on the web. And Mozilla's contribution back in, 2004 was the Mozilla Archive format. I don't think that really went anywhere. So we've got we don't have a great situation here. Anyways, so we're scanning for this block in particular. And because we don't have a consistent size, it is very possible that part of our scanning will, like, grab this block, and we'll have only part of the message selected. And so that's why we do the two buffers. We, like, combine the buffers. Is so in the event that we've, like, one buffer might contain the whole thing, in which case you found it, or one buffer contains part of it. The other buffer, because we know the size of what this boundary will be, we know that the buffer is greater than that size. If you concatenate them, then you can be sure that you're not going to accidentally slice it in half. Or if you do, say the second buffer is concatenated to the first, and you slice it in half, well, then the one after that is going to be like something like this. So there's like a little bit of repeat work, but that way you'll never, because we know the size of this marker that we're looking for, we'll never miss it. Now the problem is in the event that I believe this is the case, is in the event that our scanning causes us to break over a Unicode string or a Unicode character. So what are Unicode characters? That's a great question, and one I don't think I can answer during the stream. There's this old document that I remember reading a long time ago that I remember being somewhat helpful. I don't know if it's still helpful, but I remember reading this a long time ago, and this kind of goes into Unicode characters and character encoding in general. But basically, you can't... It's... With ASCII and, maybe... like a fairly significant number of characters can be represented using a single byte. You can represent 256 characters with and they're not necessarily like glyphs. They're also maybe control characters. That's what, like, the ASCII table contained both glyphs and control characters, like the bell character, and there's like new line. That's like a white space character, but end of file, that's another character, and that's not enough for all of the different things that need to be represented with characters, with glyphs. And so Unicode is a standard that says that if you've got some bytes, you can represent a much larger set of glyphs using multiple bytes when they're put in a particular order. So if you've ever wondered, like, if we go to, like, is there a Unicode map or a list of Unicode characters? So there's a lot of Unicode characters, but if we go to, like, let's go to these Unicode characters. So this is some Unicode character here. I don't know what word that is, but that's some Unicode character. This is represented by not one byte, but several. In fact, let's take a look at that. I'm going to put this character right in between the letters U and M in document. And now I'm going to open this up in a hex editor so we can take a look. Okay. So here we've got our decoded text on the right side here. You can see our version number. And then eventually we're going to get to the word document. Oh, I may have needed to save. Sorry. Let me try that again. Hex. Okay, so we finally get to the word. This is a specially crafted document, and then notice there are 4 dots in here, and those dots represent bytes. Like each byte is represented in here, and these bytes start with F0. This is in hex. F0 A8 8584, and those 4 bytes represent this character in UTF-8. Did we get that right? Yes, that looks right. And like like the Latin characters, the classic Latin character like M is just a single unsigned integer 109. That's within our first 256. You can just do a 1 byte with 8 bits you can represent all of like your classic Latin characters. But as soon as you start getting into like the non-Latin characters outside of like the ASCII table, then you need more bytes, and this is an example of that. And I think there's like a particular preamble. The F0 I think might be how it sort of prepares whatever is interpreting the bytes as saying like, hey, I've got a Unicode character coming. Like whenever you have a piece of software that's interpreting the bytes, the software needs to know what the byte encoding is. And in this case, this document is in UTF-8. Like it says it right here, that we are in UTF-8. That's a particular character encoding, which allows us to represent some of the characters using like single bytes, and then other characters using multiple bytes. And I think that is the root of our problem, is that our worker is scanning using blocks of bytes, fixed size blocks of bytes. And so in theory, depending on the layout and the order and the position of certain characters, it is possible for one of those blocks to slice a Unicode character in half. So like this one Unicode character, you'd maybe end your first block with half the Unicode character represented at the very beginning. Like, because you've got the double blocks, you might have like half the Unicode character shows up at the end of one block, and then the beginning of it shows up at the second block. So they concatenate together, no problem. You've got your character. And then you shift, and then you've only got these first 2 characters of the or these last 2 characters of the Unicode block, or the Unicode character. These last 2 bytes of the Unicode character are in the first block, and then the second block might have any arbitrary number of things. And that's a problem because of how our worker scans. We're starting to go into theory here because I haven't verified this. This is what I want to verify with you today, is that this is the problem. So the way that the worker works is, we have this fixed buffer size. It's either that many bytes or however many bytes there are left in the file. We create our buffer, we read bytes into it, we decode them into a string. We decode those bytes into a string, UTF-8 string, and then we use a regular expression to look for the version at the top, and then we make sure that the version matches what we expect, and then we keep scanning. This is where we talk about we're using our double buffering here, the front half and the back half of the buffer, and then we have this while loop. And what it does is it reads in another block of bytes, and then eventually the decoded string will contain the expected marker, and the expected marker is the begin. It's this thing. It'll contain this. This is our expected marker, and our regular expression will match. And then what it does is we try and work. So there's this big comment in here that tries to explain what we're doing, but it tries to get the index of the match that it found. Akra says, you don't want to load everything in memory because it might be a huge file. Exactly. I don't want to load the entire 100 or so megabytes into memory at once. We want to stream it. That was one of the sort of design directives, is to make sure that we don't blow out the memory on the machine. Because this could be arbitrary. It could be hundreds of megabytes. Why is it HTML then? Yeah, that's a great question, because we lose our ability to compress a little bit. We've compressed the cloned data stores into a zip, and then we base64 encode them, which inflates it again in order to stick it inside of an HTML file. Why would we do such a thing? And the answer is we want this file to be portable. We didn't want it to be binary. We didn't want to worry about it being a thing that has to be signed or executed, but we wanted it to be a combined single file that includes both the backup as well as the capability of restoring from that backup. So that if you are a user and you just have that one file, it has all of the information it needs to guide you through both getting Firefox and recovering from the file. We want that to all be in the one file. That's why. And, originally we tinkered with having it be self-extracting executable. But the problem with that is that it needs to be signed then. Otherwise, users are going to see their operating system be like, hey, what's this binary that you're trying to run? It's not signed. And the reason we can't sign it is because in order to sign it with Mozilla's application signing infrastructure, it needs the data that's inside the binary. And if it's a self-extracting binary, that means your backup. We would need your backup in order to sign the binary, and we don't want your backup. Don't send it to us, please. We don't want your data. And also, it's not portable. That's exactly right. It would only work on there are ways around this. Cosmopolitan is a really interesting project that you may have heard of. Politan, which is... I need to update my recovery codes. So this allows us to create binaries that will run on most platforms, but not I don't think GUI applications. Simple C programs, maybe, but I'm not certain that it would allow you to run one a Win32. I don't know how that would work. Maybe could it use SDL? I have no idea. Actually, I'm actually really interested in that. Could you use? Could you write a GUI application with Cosmopolitan? That'd be very interesting. That might be an interesting project. Anyways, I haven't looked into that, and we discarded that idea fairly quickly because of how complicated it was, and particularly because of the signing issue. There's really not a way around that. As soon as you have a binary, you have the signing problem. As soon as you have a binary that's not being run from the terminal, you have the signing problem. And there are some ways around that. You can pack some information. It's different from operating system to operating system. But you can pack some information inside of a binary that is signed that is not part of what is signed. That's how, the signature, for example, is in a region of the executable that is not signed, because that's recursive. You can't sign the signature and have that be part of the signature. So obviously it's held in part of the binary that is not signed, but that region of space inside of the binary that is not part of the signature is not large enough to contain the backup, at least on Windows. So, we juggled a lot of options, and the HTML one seemed to tick all of the boxes. The trade there being, it's a little more complicated for us to have to scan, and you lose some of the advantages of compressing so heavily, because you have to reinflate everything because it needs to be UTF-8 encoded, and you can't just put binary, arbitrary binary bits from the compressed and encrypted file inside of a UTF-8 file, because browsers wouldn't interpret it correctly. I mean, you could put it in there, but as soon as you tried to load that file, every browser would just go like, what is this? This is not UTF-8 encoded. This is not correctly encoded. I'm going to explode. If you're interested in... there was another option that we looked at that was maybe a little too complicated, but there's this add-on that I really admire called Single File. And it will... If you install this add-on in Firefox, it can create snapshots of a web page that you're on, including all the image and style and script assets, and it puts it into a single HTML file, and that single HTML file is specially crafted in the same way that how do I describe it? It's like where does it talk about it? Single file, frequently asked questions. The self-extracting zip files are essentially regular zip files. They take advantage of the flexibility in the zip specification, which allow for additional data to be included before and after the zip payload. Right. So what's interesting about it is that the zip file masquerades as an HTML file. So this is hang on a second. Yeah, this HTML file, if I load it, hooray, it's like an HTML file, except that it's also, pretty sure, a zip file. Like if I rename this to zip, well, I don't know. There's information about how like the file can masquerade as different things. It can be a zip file and an HTML file, and we considered tinkering with that. Augur says, did you also consider XML and not using comments? No, we did not. We did not. Okay, anyways, I think that's the problem, is that Unicode characters can get sliced in half, and then our calculation of where the starting byte is for streaming in the MIME message breaks. I think that's what's going on. I want to now verify that. I'm going to start by writing a test. I've got our this is a well, first of all, how does this bug sort of present itself? I'm going to go into the debug interface of the backup component. I'm just going to try and extract from the archive. Now, there's actually, if you look inside of here, there's no binary block. But part of what it wants to do whenever it extracts is it's going to try and pull in the JSON, the JSON block to determine whether or not the file is encrypted, the backup is encrypted. And it's going to fail. Check it out. So I try and open it up, and it just sticks. It just, like, hangs. I mean, the browser is still responsive, but it is never going to resolve. And the reason for that is because it finds the wrong position. The starting byte is miscalculated. For some reason, it's calculated, for my testing, to be about here, which is not the beginning of the MIME message boundary. And so it starts looking for this MIME message boundary, and it never finds it. And so it never finds the JSON block. And our routine does not exit. So that's the first bug, actually, is we need to make it so that if we cannot find the JSON block, that we reject. So that we're no longer just like sitting and waiting for a thing to hang. That's the first piece of work. And then we're going to write a test that uses this file to ensure that we reject when we load it, or like that rejects because it still has the bug. And then, like, this is going to be a little test driven. We're going to try and fix the bug and make it so that the test passes. That's the ball game. So let's do it. We're going to start by taking this file. I'm going to shut down this. I think I had a different copy of this under backup tests, XBC shell data, break over Unicode. I'm going to copy browser components backup, copy downloads, break over is it documents? break over Unicode. We're going to copy that to browser components backup, test XP shell data. We're going to add that file to the test manifest for test backup archive. Data / break over unicode.html. We're going to add that to tracking for Mercurial. And then we are going to commit. And the bug number for all of this is this. Bug such and such. Reject. No. Correct. Make. What is the routine? Make parse archive header resilient to partial Unicode characters in the buffer. Okay. Just realized I've got my email open. I'm going to quit that real quick. Okay, and then we need to... I'm going to make this reject. Actually, not here, because this is... While this is the part that's, I think, the problem, and the fix is going to be in here, the actual exception should probably be thrown at the thing that tries to parse the JSON. So extract JSON from archive. This is the thing that should reject in the event that it never found it. On stop request, I'm pretty sure we get something that's like is last part, multi-part channel on the it's received from the base channel. Determine whether more data can be expected. Okay, so in on stop request, I believe on stop request we'll get the channel. No, it gets an NSI request, but do we get? Yeah, we can QI it into a channel. If enabled and not done, then do this. Else, if or no, more like this. Resolve. If not request, then expect it on stop request. And then we're going to, if request.is last part, and not done. Throw components.exception. Could not find JSON block. CR as error unexpected. And so we should reject. Actually, I don't know if we even need to throw. I think we just reject. New backup error, could not find JSON block. Okay. Now, when we run our test, or manually test, we should expect that we will now get a rejection rather than just having it sit there. That's my hope. And then we can write our automated test. No, did not do the thing. So let's see if we can figure out why. We are going to because if this enabled was false, true once we found an attachment matching expected content type. So actually we need to change this. Else, if not enabled, and not done. Yeah, that's what we need to do. All right, let's try that again. Oh, still, eh? Okay, hold on. Let's put our breakpoint here. Let's see what goes on. Nothing? Oh. Is there a on data available? Start request. Let's see if we hit any of these. We don't hit any of them. Convert data. Stream listener. It doesn't hit any of them. Why aren't we hitting any of those? I can take a fix on that if you have not started. Should that file as a new bug or worked on from the existing test failure bug? Sorry, I'm talking with a colleague who's also very interested in this bug. So this is also not good. Like, we never find it. Never the stream converter eventually. Stream listener. What's implemented on stream listener? On data available, which also does request observer, start request, stop request. And we're not doing either start or stop? That's wild to me. Starting request, stopping at data available. This is very strange. I would have expected at least stop request to be called, but we might need to look inside of how exactly the multi-part MIME message thing Yeah, we never hit any of those. Okay, let's take a look at the multi-part MIME message. Stream conv multi-part. What's it called? Multi-part image network multi-part channel stream conv. Where is it? I can never find it when I need it. It's multi-mixed conv for some reason. So parse, we start parsing, we consume tokens. When we hit the end of file, EOF, what do we... On stop request, if part channel set is last part, NS failed status and request no. Final listener, otherwise on after last part. Multi-part, there's something called a multi-part channel listener. Do I want that on after last part? The last part of the final on stop request has been sent. But that's only presuming, like, I don't know if we'll actually hit that. Let's try something here. I'm going to build with debug. I think I have a pre-existing debug build. How far do you get with reading? Also deread binary. How far do you get with reading? Deread the binary. I don't think I know what you mean, Smurf D. Do I know the binary language of moisture evaporators? What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach LLDB. Okay. So I've got a debug build here. I'm gonna figure out what process this is. .46028, and now I'm going to load all the symbols. And now I'm going to set a breakpoint inside of this thing. On data finished. Where's that? On data finished. Just for notifying listeners about data stop. Just pressing data. Check listener chain. Data finished. Check listener chain. Oh, okay. They don't actually do anything. So I'm going to set a breakpoint here. I'm going to set a breakpoint Do I set a breakpoint on consume token? That might take a while. Switch to body parsing. Here's the send start. Let's send stop. Send data. Send stop. Only happens in on stop request. Did I already have a breakpoint and on stop request? I did. Let's also add one to ns multi mixed conv on start request. Okay. Now we will load our file. Okay, so on start request, good. We get our channel. So I've seen all this before. We like pull in all the necessary information, blah 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 blah. We start parsing the bytes and some data. We have some data, but we don't have any raw data. Where are we being called send data from? Who's calling us? Send data. Send data. And on data available. Frame 1. We must do this every time regardless if anything has failed during the parsing process. Okay, so we know that there is no raw data. When does mraw data set? When we accumulate some data from a token. So there's no data, so then nothing happens. NSOK on send data. Then stop request. So we've stopped parsing stuff. Do we have a part channel? I don't think so. Null pointer. Do we have NS failed? No. Do we have request listener notified? Request listener notified. No. So underlying data production problem. We should not be in the middle of sending data. If we were, mpart channel above would have been non-null. So here we say, hey, listener, do you implement... Oh, multi-listener is... Oh, I haven't finished trying to QI it, but do I have a final listener? I do. PM final listener. I'm pretty sure this is the thing that we implemented. Implemented in JavaScript. So I have a feeling what I need to do is implement this interface, multi-part channel listener, on this thing. And put this routine out here. Okay, we crashed. Trying to print that, dereference that. Okay, never mind. Relax. Relax. Okay, so let's try that then. So I'm gonna get rid of this thing that I just added. And instead, we're going to update this to have a NSI on after the NSI multi-part channel listener. NSI multi-part channel listener. And we'll put our implementation of on after last part here. On after last part accepts just a status. Did we scan to see what the status was before we crashed? Status was NSOK at the time. So I think what we'll do is we'll just see if not done. Done is supposed to be true once listeners enabled. So if we're not done by the time the last one goes, if not this dot done, we finished reading the parts before we found the JSON block. So the JSON block is missing. We don't need this part. We'll just reject. How is this? This looks awkwardly formatted. I think that something is horribly broken here. What is it? What are you worried about? I think I've got my brackets wrong. Yeah, my brackets are wrong. There we go. Let's now go back to our artifact build. I'm also going to on after last part. I'm actually going to put that up here. Yeah, could not find JSON block. Good. Here's what I'm gonna do actually. About halfway, writing an automated test case for this. Did you want to take over for me with fix? Okay. So let's add our test. Tests that if the archive file does not contain a JSON block that let me get rid of these dump statements now. Sample archive will reject. Test missing JSON block, so that's one. And then test that if the archive file is constructed in such a way that the worker ends up breaking Unicode characters in half when finding the JSON block, we can still extract the JSON block. Cbug this. Call them broken Unicode characters. Okay, so missing JSON block. We're gonna create one that just doesn't have one. Let's create a very simple archive. This is a I think we can probably really simplify this. And then we're just going to put something in here that doesn't belong. Mime. Let's pull something from our good old friends on Thunderbird, because they work with mime messages. These are meeting invites, single events, attached message sample. What in the world? Okay, and we'll call this put it under browser, components, backup, tests, XP shell, data. Call missing JSON block. I guess we should do one for the missing binary block too. Okay, so let's add browser components, backup tests, XP shell, data, missing JSON block. And our test, we need to update this to also include data missing JSON block.html. I might break this up over a couple lines. Okay, build. Missing JSON block file equals data missing JSON block.html, and then we'll say let's await assert rejects. Is that how it works? Assert rejects Await, assert, rejects, and then you pass it the thing that will reject. BS dot sample archive missing JSON block file path, and it should reject with cannot find JSON block. Let's see if that works. Backup tests, XPC shell, test backup service, archive. How are we doing on times? 2:10. I'd like to finish this test, these tests, and then I'm going to hand the work off. I have a colleague who has volunteered to try and write the fix. So that's great. So that does reject. That's good. We should also add a test for missing binary block. Missing binary block. There's not going to be a binary block that recover from archive. Is that the one? Recover or extract compressed snapshot from archive will fail. Missing. So we're going to create one called missing binary block as well. Data missing to missing binary block.html. Okay. Missing binary block. So we actually want to put our JSON block here. Missing binary block. But I'm going to get rid of enc config or set it to null. So it's not encrypted. And what is the length of this line? 342. Okay, so missing binary block. Pretty sure this is not going to fail already. And we actually need to update backup service to use, so the other part that's scanning the multi-part listener for the binary block needs to also implement multi-part channel listener. Yeah, this one. On after last part, if not this dot done, reject. Oh, we should also close the controller. Close, reject. New backup error. Freeing the parser where I found the binary block. So the binary block is missing. Find binary block. Okay. Test backup service archive. Could not find binary block. Okay, so let's make sure that that one also passes. And then we'll write our last test, and that one we expect to fail. And then I will hand this off to my colleague. Could not remove undefined, could not parse path, unrecognized path. Missing binary block. Extract compressed snapshot from archive. Is that the right? What is it expecting? The path, the dest path. The destination path needs to be like some dummy fake recovery path. I'm missing block dest. And then we'll make sure that fake recovery path. All right. Missing expected exception. Line 457. So it got reject is not defined in line 296. Are we not inside of a... Oh, we're not inside of a promise. How does this work then? How do you reject? So start from a binary readable stream. I think what we need to do is like we need to error binary readable stream. So I need to readable stream default controller tell it that we're erroring. Error. Controller.error actually. Yeah, there we go. And then let's do the last one. And that should do it, I think, for this episode. That's actually pretty good. So we're going to go... we expect this to pass. What is the name of it? It's break over Unicode. Special Unicode file. And then we expect this to not reject. Let sample archive returns us what? Returns us a sample archive result, which should include this stuff. At the very least, should include the archive JSON. Archive JSON equal BS insert OK archive JSON hub was able to extract the JSON from the specially crafted file with Unicode characters. What's broken here? That's broken. Okay. All right, so this should fail. Okay, posting in just a moment. Let's take a quick peek. Now, what I'd like to do is make sure that I haven't accidentally broken any other tests. So I'm going to run our entire suite. I'm going to skip that one that is currently broken. I'm going to run the entire suite. And I'm going to run... Good. The marionette test. Good. And the UI tests for good measure. Okay. Mozfab submit tip single whip. Okay, posted at such and such. Oh, uncommitted change. What's the uncommitted change? Oh, right. I want to unskip that test. So there shouldn't be any diff now. No diff. Okay. Well, gang, that's pretty much it. Let me see here. Whew, I'm getting lit up on various communications channels. I need to answer a bunch of questions for people. So I'm going to have to probably end the stream in just a sec. But I wanted to let you know, we didn't get to the reviews. I'm going to have to review those outside of the stream. There is no stream next week. So I'm going to say, didn't get to these. Didn't get to these. There is no stream next week because I'm on vacation. I'm going to go to the beach for a while. So I will not be here next Wednesday, but I will hopefully be back the Wednesday after. And so until then, I hope you have yourselves a great couple of weeks, great couple of days, and I'll see you when I'm back. Hey, thank you so much for watching episode 373 of The Joy of Coding. Let me know what you thought. There's a link to rate this episode here in the agenda. I'll drop a link to that in the chat. Rate this episode link. Thank you so much for all the people who are wishing me a happy vacation or enjoying my vacation. I appreciate that. And I will see you all in a couple weeks. Take care, everybody. Oh, hold on a second. I gotta transition to this. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.